Well, hello, soccer fans. Randy McKee here with Soccer 605, and I am here with a couple guests, Ryan Beier with the Sioux Falls O'Gorman Girls, Mark Morgan with the Rapid City Central Girls, and, of course, my old partner in crime, Chris Derry. He's traveling along one of the South Dakota highways. I think it's 34 or 14 or one of them on his way to Pierre. So, hey, guys, thanks a lot for joining us tonight on the Girls Wrap-Up Show.
Thanks for the invite.
Okay, well, let's kind of get started on what we had going last week. We had some very interesting games, and Coach Beier, your team was involved in one of those interesting games against Sioux Falls, Washington, and it's just amazing when these teams get together. They have a lot on the line. Like Washington had, they were fighting for their lives when they took you on, and frankly, I thought they played a wonderful game against your team, even though your girls looked pretty good, as far as I was concerned. One is kind of one of those mistake goals, a big collision in the box. One of their girls steps up and pops it in, and that was the game. But at least from where I was, a pretty fun game to watch. Probably wasn't that fun for you.
We were, like four, they us all handle it more. The first ball, we were struggling to possession, but they're in the box and. Really, we had a lot of trouble finding, and we were flat, and it showed in the game.
Well, that's just high school soccer, and so much of that depends on what state of need you're in, and it just looked to me like Washington played like they were a team that absolutely needed a win, and your girls played like they were in and didn't need it, and that's kind of what it boiled down to.
It was basically night and that game, now really going to come down to the last couple where those points went.
Chris, if you can hear me okay, I know you've been taking a look at some of the standings and what we have going on from here on out. And, yesterday, Pierre rolls into Harrisburg. They both teams needed a win there, and, Harrisburg gets one in and comes away with a win. And we were talking yesterday on the phone that, may have been the nail in Pierre's coffin. It's hard to say, though. They may still have an opportunity. Okay, so we got Derry on the phone, and he kind of froze up. But Mark, your team has pretty interesting.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. You're on.
Okay, just making sure my phone was working here. Can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, you're fine.
The game yesterday I thought was interesting from the standpoint of you had two teams who definitely, I think, needed a win between Harrisburg and Pierre. I do think the loss for Pierre was a big one in a lot of ways, not only momentum-wise because they have been struggling over the past few weeks, but also from the standpoint of now they got a young team with not with not a lot of opportunity, and even if they beat Yankton and Huron, I think they're still on the outside looking in some perspectives. Where Harrisburg, that win for them definitely is going to propel them, give them the power points. I think there's a lot of things to be decided over this next week with with the girls' side. I think the top couple spots are pretty well solidified, but those, Rapid City Central, Harrisburg, Aberdeen, O'Gorman. I mean, there's a lot of games out there. I think the top 8, the top 2 or 3, I think, are figured out, but the rest of them, I think, are going to switch over here in the next couple of weeks. And quite honestly, I don't know that right now there's a team out there that's playing so good that they're not beatable. I think there's a lot of teams out there, whether they're home or away, could pull out some wins and make this playoff series a very interesting series.
Well, I thought there was one girls team in the state that was playing like they're unbeatable, and that's the team that Coach Morgan's girls beat this week, and that's St. Thomas More. They got a tremendous team, but they couldn't deal with the Rapid City Central stuff. And Mark, we picked Rapid City Central early and probably put a little undue pressure on you and the girls to be a top performer. But I'll tell you, it just this last third of the season, they've really come on and really been very solid.
Yeah, we kind of struggled just like we did last year coming out of the chute. Finding out. Of course, last year was my first year and figuring out who I had and where to play them and a formation and everything. And it took us a few games to get it figured out. And we struggled with the same thing this year. We had to do some tweaking. And is Chris trying to talk too? Am I talking?
No, he's
okay.
like.
Okay. So I kind of feel like we got things worked out a little bit now. We had some injuries and kind of give and take on the injuries a little bit, but I think we're kind of getting dialed in now.
Another team that I've been able to watch a lot this year, just because they played a lot of good opponents, is Sioux Falls O'Gorman girls. And I mean, Coach Beier, your girls have been kind of up and down that top 4 ladder. And, just really have been in some total dog fights. And you got another one Friday night with Aberdeen Central coming to town. I know you were talking in our post-game interview about you and Askey kind of joking about, how many times are we going to draw this year again, because that's how equal those teams are just year after year.
Yeah, that's for sure. Merle brought his group down on Friday, and, we had Washington on Tuesday, so the legs, I think every, with the way the 3 a week, adjusting and doing the to get your at least whatever, and what I really like, once we get through the last week here, the playoffs, we have before the. A few more bodies ready. That'll help a lot. One goal.
It's really going to be amazing. I'm looking at the standings here, and we've got as we're rolling down the list here, we've got Rapid City Central right under O'Gorman, Aberdeen Central just above there. With Stevens above that, Mark, you've got a huge game coming up Tuesday night that's going to have an impact on. It'll have some impact on you. It's going to have a lot of impact on whether Stevens has to travel or stay home. And you beat Central earlier in the year, or beat Stevens earlier in the year. One of the hardest things in the world to do is beat a good team twice in a row. How do your girls figure they're going to accomplish that this week?
Yeah, we're just we've been training pretty hard. Once we got beat Stevens the first time, and then with the St. Thomas More win, it kind of with the slow start we had, then after a couple of good wins, the confidence level came up a little bit. So they were feeling a little defeated to start out the season. But, I've seen him play. I've watched Stevens play. Besides my game, I've watched him play 4 or 5 times. And And there's no big secrets. Like you say, everything is so close. It's kind of like the NFL. Any of those, any team, any given Sunday. And I really think that's the way it is with say the top 8, 9 teams right now. I don't think there's a massive separation between any of them. But we're kind of clicking in the midfield right now. We're fixing some things in the outside, and my back line and keeper's playing well. So I just think if we don't get too worried about what everybody else is doing, we just go out there and play the type of soccer we want to play. I think we're going to be okay.
Well, and like I said, especially this last third of the season, your girls have looked almost unbeatable. But when we get deep in the season now, and every game counts, I start looking at these guys that have been there time after time after time. And there's a few names that you could say that have been there, and Ryan Beier definitely is one of them. But Ryan, how important is that? I mean, from your perspective and from your girls' perspective, their level of confidence, knowing, last year they won a state championship. I don't know how many championships you won back in the club days, but I mean, O'Gorman was there very much like Stevens. I mean, those two teams are mentioned time after time after time in the same sentence. How important is that for your girls to have that kind of history going into this end of the season?
Well, I think to me, these club games and those type, that high school rival draft, there's a lot to play. I just keep it just the girls play.
Well, hey, Ryan, we're having a lot of trouble with your audio right now. And so, to kind of get a perspective on what we're talking about, I'm going to try to get Derry on here because, Derry has been in through a lot of that championship. But I think you probably heard me, Chris, on how important it is for players to have that when you head into a championship round, to have that confidence that prior teams have been there, the coach has been there. What kind of advantage do you think that gives a team going into a scenario like that?
I think the biggest difference between championship teams and teams that are still figuring out how to play championship style is just that you know what your style is. You do it better than anyone else can. And I think with what you're seeing with Coach Morgan, what you've seen in the past with Coach Beier, what you've seen in the past with teams I've coached and a lot of other coaches, when they're in that championship form, they're playing their form, and it really doesn't matter what the other team is doing. It's you're playing the way you know how to play, and you're making other teams adjust to you. And I think that's part of the reason why you see, there's certain things you just can't teach. Coach Morgan has the benefit of the fact that he's got an unsurmountable amount of speed all over the field with his team. I love the way his team plays soccer. I think that's part of the reason why Stevens has a problem playing them. Stevens isn't as fast as they are. Coach Beier's teams, I love watching Coach Beier's teams play because they know how to handle the pressure. They play under it well. They possess the ball. You know what you're going to get out of them, and that's kind of the thing that I see with a lot of those teams that are still trying to figure out how to play championship style, and the ones who are continuing on with their championship style of play.
Well, I think you're exactly right there, and and I think we saw this last year when Mark took over at Central, and I think we saw a team that they were young. We knew that they were going to be fast, but we just didn't know what kind of guts they were going to bring, and a lot of that has to do with coaching, and so they surprised a lot of teams last year. I don't think they surprised anybody this year. and they aren't going to surprise anybody next year. But what's the formula you got going there, Mark? Like in training, I mean, do you guys have incredibly competitive training sessions, or are you just doing mostly teaching, or what are you doing there?
No, yeah, the old phrase, the game's the best teacher. So I just try to facilitate that. I try to keep the sessions moving. All the games we do, we don't, most of it's game related, and I just try to keep them playing fast all the time. And there's a lot of them that really like the pressure. The more they get pushed during sessions, they seem to really respond well to it. And, for any time off, in fact, want to train more. So they're a great group of girls. Their attitudes are in the right place. I don't have any squabbling or bickering. Everybody just goes out and does their job and supports the others. And we're still pretty young too. We got some freshmen out there, on our starting out there. So we can get into trouble sometimes too, but they help make up for each other, and like I say, they all do their jobs and work real hard.
Well, I'm going to try to come back to Coach Beier, and hopefully we have a little better audio. But Ryan, your team, you have a pretty young team too, but they're dealing with the loss a few weeks ago of their starting keeper and leader, Christina Wagner, which was kind of it's the weirdest ACL injury I think I've ever seen. We looked at it on the replay, slowed it way down, but the reality is, you had a sophomore keeper that had to step up and do the job, and I'll tell you what, Olivia Sorrell is. She's the answer to that problem. I mean, she's not Christina, but boy, you got to really be proud of how she stepped in and covered that job for your team.
Yeah, I am. She really came in. She had basically warmed up in the first 30 seconds of. So it wasn't and just come off a JV a sandwich, and I put that sandwich every day, every practice. She's really gaining more and more confidence. Too.
It's not like I guess it's not like Olivia hasn't been exposed to high-level soccer. I mean, she she plays very competitive club level. She's been to regionals several times, so she's seen all this stuff. But it's wonderful to hear her in a lot of ways emulating Christina, because I always I've been very vocal about that. I think Christina has the best voice of any keeper in South Dakota, and that is something that a team needs to be hearing. And we, Olivia and I talked about that the other day, and she said, "Oh yeah, that's made a huge difference." So, Christina's still a huge part of your team. She's there, involved, and she's with Olivia, a lot. And so, if you could have somebody stepping in and doing that, you've got a very good scenario. But I think when you take a look at some of the other tools you have there, O'Gorman, and on every line, you've got Weidler up top, you've got Fajardo in the middle, you've got Molly Detzel in the back, who I think is probably the best center back I've seen this year. You've got kids everywhere that are solving the problem. You've got the huge work of Izzy out there on the wing. So, as you head into these games, and pretty soon it's going to be, one game seasons for you, you got to really feel good about what you've got there at O'Gorman. Well, Ryan, we're having audio issues again, and I don't know what's going on, but anyway, Gary, I'm gonna bring you on here and kind of have you talk about what you've seen in terms of what we have left. We're in a situation where Harrisburg are finishing up with Brandon and Washington. Washington, of course, has Harrisburg, and then they play West Central, which is no cakewalk for anybody. Pierre, you talked about the issues that they may be having, but they've got Yankton at home and then at Huron. And then we have Yankton finishing up with Vermilion and at Pierre. So, actually these four teams are fighting basically for that spot. What's your take on what's going to happen?
Well, I think you got an interesting scenario. I think right now, out of all of them, I think Harrisburg and Yankton are probably sitting the best, just from what the past has shown, schedule-wise, way they're playing, their current form. I think Pierre's going to be in a situation where they have to win, and do they have the players and do they have the coach that can handle that pressure? I just, in my opinion, if you were to ask me who's gonna be outside and who's gonna be in, I don't think Pierre's gonna be in, which pains me to say that, but I just, the way they're playing right now, there's some struggle, and struggles at depth. Yankton, I think, they're an athletic team. They're a fast team. They're one of the only teams I kind of feel kind of like Rapid City Central. I keep giving Coach Morgan's team all the compliments on speed because out of all the girls teams I've seen this year, I honestly feel his team's one of the fastest teams all over the field. And I think Yankton brings a lot of that same type of scenario. And when Yankton comes into Pierre, because Pierre doesn't like to sub a lot, I think Pierre's gonna struggle with that speed and that depth because Yankton will use their bench and will run players all over the place. Harrisburg, I think will take care of Washington. I think Harrisburg's got themselves into the tournament at the end, and then Washington, unfortunately, I just don't think this is going to be their year. I don't know. We'll see how the predictions turn out, but that's kind of the way I see it, I guess.
Well, Mark, I'm kind of wondering what your take is on as we head into this final week. You've got a really scrappy Belfouche team that you still have to deal with. You've got a really probably angry Stevens team that you have to deal with. It looks like regardless of the outcomes, you're probably going to be in the top 8 anyway. But how do you think your girls are going to respond to what they have in this final week coming up?
Well, all early, clear till mid-season, it looked like we were on the outside looking in, and all we had to do was really drop about one more game, and we were in trouble. But now that things are clicking and we're looking like we're at least safe, now it's now the girls have their next hurdle is to go for home field advantage, which, to be honest, we weren't thinking that was realistic. We were sitting pretty good in the standings at the start of a week, and by the end of the week, we went from like 4th to 9th, and all we did was win one game against Spearfish. It just depends so much on what everybody else is doing. You just keep sliding or you rise. And but yeah, Luis and those Stevens girls, she's got some good girls over there, and of course, Luis is one of my mentors, from many years. He's taught me so much. So I consider it an honor just to even be playing across from him. But yeah, he's going to be working to try to make some adjustments to counter some of our speed and some of the things we've been doing. But I've made a few little tweaks too, so things won't look quite the same as the last time he played me. So we can we'll go back and forth there. And as far as Belfouche goes, yeah, I watched them play against Stevens last night, and yeah, they are pretty scrappy. They've got a couple of good little players. Christina, gosh, I can't say her last name, but there's a couple. There's a good striker and a pretty good mid player on there. So yeah, they're not quitting. So we're going to take each of those games with a lot of seriousness.
Well, and Ryan, you finish up. I think you just have one game left, right, at Brookings.
Brookings on
And
Tuesday.
and Brookings is one of these teams that everybody I've talked to about Brookings, and I've watched 3 of their games this year. Their record is not at all indicative of what kind of team they have there. They got a clever, quick, a bunch of very good players. They got a great keeper, and just how it is some years, you just sometimes the ball hits the post instead of the net. That's kind of the year Brookings has had so far. So, I mean, this is a serious game for O'Gorman because it's something your girls need to win that game.
Yeah, and we dropped to 5th over the weekend, and I think that win will probably bump us back up just as how everyone plays the. And you need a calculator to the computer to do the math. Looking at them today and looking at them Tuesday and looking at them at the end of the week, be a lot of changes. And like Mark said, yeah, every game is, and not even losses, but to gain that momentum going into the season play.
Mark, I'm going to give you a couple minutes while we have them here to talk about some of the kids. I know you've got a handful of really good up and coming players. I mean, in Rose Miller, you got a great senior there, very tough kid. If we can get you back on here.
Oh, hang on, Randy.
Okay. Well, as long as I wish we had Ryan Beier's picture on yours and your voice on his, and we'd really have something good.
I'm trying to get my wife picked up at the airport, so I was trying to do 2 things at once there.
Okay, well, I really want you to have an opportunity to talk about some of your kids because, we really, that's probably the biggest part of why Soccer 605 exists is to shine the light on these players.
Okay. Well, I'm really fortunate if you start at the back I have 2 goalkeepers in Therese Wilhelmi and Michaela Holt. How many coaches can say they have 2 varsity level starting level goalkeepers? And to be honest, we just rotate. You get this game, you get the next one, and back and forth. And so I'm very fortunate that way. Unlike Coach Beier's situation there, but it sounds like he's had his girl step right up, so that's great. But my back line, I got 1 senior back there, and Ashley Frizzell, and Grace Baumgartner. She slipped in should be a junior, and so we have a couple of new players out there in Destiny Cole and Sarah Stanley. And then of course everybody knows Rose Miller, and she can be a handful for teams. She kind of seems to be hitting her stride right now as well. She's strong, defensively and offensively. She can handle a ball really well. But I've got her paired up with a freshman, and Megan Cohen, and she is doing really well. She's learning fast, and she's had to come under a lot of pressure, and so I give her a lot of credit for dealing with that pressure. And then I got Leah Emerson up top, and she's given some teams some fits because she is fast and she's physical. She isn't just, it isn't, the cool thing is, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but she isn't scoring all the goals. But her assists, in fact, she's got more assists right now than she does goals. So she's making good things happen up there. So, and then, I've got I don't have a ton of depth. I really just have 2 other players in that. Well, I've got Regina Lang playing in the mid, kind of helping out in there, and Abby, she's a Fenhouse. She's a new senior to me. She hasn't touched a ball in 3 years, and she's starting for me. So that scares you a little bit, but she's stepped up and she's learning fast and working hard. And then Kira Butler on that left wing. She did well last year as a freshman. She's doing pretty good this year as a sophomore. She come back from some illnesses. So, but I don't have a lot of depth. depth, and that's the thing that's scary, And but I'm feeling pretty good about things. We seem to be kind of peaking, or I won't say peaking, but we're heading in the right direction towards peaking.
And Ryan, I don't know how long your audio is going to last this time. It was a lot better last time for a little bit, but the one thing that I've seen in your team, and like I said, I've seen your team play half a dozen times, I think already. But every game that I've seen, win, lose, or draw, your team has looked like the better team much of the game, and you're when the girls are connecting, I think they probably look like the best team I've seen this year. And, the big challenge now, I guess, is getting a bunch of, 16, 17-year-old kids to do that 4 more times. And, you did it last year. What do you think is the difference between this year's team and last year's championship team?
The biggest difference last year, we had a 3-year-old back, and Molly actually was a D mid for us, and we moved Molly to the back. You in the area, and that I here, and we really had pretty much all of our starters ready to go and filling in from last year. We only had a couple spots to fill, and continuing with what we think we can do and what we we had and a couple other freshmen, and they kind of had that, and that's a good thing at times. Sometimes you need that little extra to win a 1-0 game, and then lose 1-0, and a couple times we've almost possessed ourselves playing too comfortable, and you possess, and the other team knocks something that that it's not how through, it's you got to put on the board.
Well, I'll tell you, your team's lucky to have a coach that's been there time after time. I know Mark's team is lucky to have a coach who is very experienced and really clever. So it's going to be really fun seeing this whole thing play out. Guys, I'm gonna thank you here and hop out and cover the A girls, which is pretty much settled right now in terms of playoffs. But I really, and you're more than welcome to hang around while we do that. But I really want to thank Ryan Beier with Sioux Falls O'Gorman girls, and Mark Morgan with Rapid City Central girls. Mark, it looks like we may be out there to cover your game Tuesday against Stevens. And, no pressure, man. But, I keep thinking about that, the preseason rankings that the committee came up with. And, it really, I've been talking with Coach Burkhalter over at Lincoln about that, and all of a sudden now Lincoln's popped up to number 1. And like Carol said the other night when they played Roosevelt, she said, well, the Lincoln team that we thought was going to show up the first week showed up against Roosevelt. So things are going to look good. O'Gorman's got a great team. Lincoln's got a great team. Roosevelt's got everybody's got a great team this year. So, guys, I can't thank you enough for being with us and sharing your perspectives. Hopefully, Mark, we'll see you Tuesday in Rapid City and have a chance to visit. Ryan, thanks again very much for being with us. You've been such a loyal helper and guest on the show. And, boy, I'll tell you, it's just so great to have you guys that know what's going on in girls soccer to be with us. So, once again, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Randy. See you Tuesday.
All right, well, let's hop over to A girls for a little bit and talk about what's going on there. And like I said, it looks like it's pretty much settled. St. Thomas More is in there at the top at 9 wins, only 1 loss, and that's against Mark Morgan's girls at Rapid City Central on a draw. Belfouche is, that scrappy Belfouche team. They're in there at 5-2-1, and so it looks like they're going to be the top 2 teams that get that first week bye. And then we got T Area who have really been doing well. And, Coach Mark Anderson over there at T Area I mean, he just has been working with these girls. He's got a lot of real young kids in that team, but they just keep doing stuff that impress you. Vermilion, they're in there right now at the number 4 seed. Don't really know how we're going to end up there, but the reality is that Vermilion has a very good team. They've got a core of good players. Groton area who have struggled at times and look good at times. They're in there at 5th, and then West Central, which really I think they have the most surprising record of anybody because, well, there's 2 reasons. First of all, we're used to West Central, being state champions, but second of all, the 5 losses they have are all very close losses, but just something happened that they didn't win. I mean, we watched West Central against Vermilion here a while back, and then we watched them against St. Thomas More a little before that. They got an extremely good team, and I think they're going to be very competitive as they go in. So, as we're looking at it right now, St. Thomas More and Belle-Fourche will get the bye positions. West Central will travel to T area, and then Groton area will travel to Vermilion. Now, like I said, that's as it is right now. We don't know, how that's going to hold, but it most certainly could be that. So we'll be keeping an eye on that for you. Next Sunday, we'll have the final wrap-up show, at least for the regular season. We'll be able to tell you exactly who's traveling where and what's going to be happening. So to wrap tonight's show up, I really do want to once again thank Home Federal Bank for being such a great sponsor. I want to thank the South Dakota National Guard for advertising on our site. I want to thank Horner Barrow Orthodontics and all the rest of the great sponsors that we've had. Because of them, they are helping us bring more soccer to you, and I mean that's our purpose. So if you get a chance to thank any of those folks, if you get a chance to go to the South Dakota National Guard site, page on our site, download their app, see some of the great information they have there. And if you have a Home Federal branch in your town, please go in there and say, hey, thanks for supporting Soccer 605 because they are so important to us. So thanks for watching the wrap-up show. We'll be here next Sunday, same time, same place, but we'll have a little bit different information and some more interesting coaches for you to listen to. Thanks so much for watching Soccer 605, and we'll see you next Sunday. Thanks.